The only person I like sort of whatever about is Gwyneth Paltrow, because who expects her to be on the right side of anything?
No, she's only on the right side of a kitchen island, and I don't need to see how she makes an omelet anymore. I've seen it before. Play Sylvia Plath again or something, yes.
Famously loves kitchens, Sylvia Plath.
Yeah.
Welcome to Keep It, Cricket Media's show about pop culture and politics and what happens when they smack into each other at an alarming speed. I'm your host, Ira Madison III, a television writer and Fall Out Boy fan.
I'm Louis Fertel. I'm a TV writer and Jane Fonda historian.
Let's get into it.
And we are back with an all-new episode of Keep It. I'm Ira Madison III.
I'm Louis Fertel. It's a very gray day in Los Angeles. It's also election day here. I know by the time you hear this episode, it won't be election day, but just know we're living in this Sleepy Hollow version of reality right now, which feels a little appropriate.
I want to say that we'll know whether or not Rick Caruso becomes mayor of LA.
My hero. I'm so kidding.
By the time this airs. But I just want to point out some losers.
Sure.
Chris Pratt.
Oh, you
suck.
Don't say.
You suck.
You don't
you
say.
Suck.
Also, his long, rambling explanation where he's like, I've been in LA a long time, and this is the city I love, and it's really fallen to shit. Girl, have you walked these streets? I've not seen you out.
Really pounding the pavement to get to those Jurassic Park auditions.
Yeah, right. Absolutely not, loser.
And Katy Perry,
who had to show us the screen she was voting on with a smile on her face I've not seen since like Bob's Big Boy. And
doing a like Laverne and Shirley jump kick into the air outside the polling place too in one of the slides on her Instagram carousel. It's like, bitch, you've already stolen a home from nuns and killed one of them.
Also, I did not realize she was appropriating Laverne and Shirley culture. Now I'm livid. Because, by the way, there are some sitcom legends out there who are doing the work. Our friend Valerie Bertinelli slaying with the content on Twitter. So this is officially a Valerie Bertinelli stands only podcast.
I think that Katy Perry is secretly a supervillain. The nun thing, not supporting Rick Caruso, like, what's next? I mean, and whatever she did to Bonnie McKee.
Oh my God! Well, we'll get into that, and I hope the podcast community investigates that. Frankly, gotta love Bonnie McKee. I regret loving her Vegas show, which I do think is one of the most spectacular things I've ever seen live. I regret that she gave us a gay, disgusting Kid Choice Awards level gala performance that I enjoyed, because this upsets me.
Yeah. Basically, every celebrity who's come out of the woodwork to be like, Rick Caruso is great, it's extra maddening because they're all people who are like down for Obama, for Hillary, like, you know, for Biden, like, we're supporting the blue, always vote blue. But it's like, you know what? You can't just be a voter. You also have to be an informed voter.
Now that seems like a huge ask, and I feel like you're saying a lot there to people who don't do a lot of huge asks. You know what I'm saying?
The only person I like sort of whatever about is Gwyneth Paltrow, because who expects her to be on the right side of anything? She's not even on the right side of us needing her back on a set again instead of selling whatever she's selling at Goop. Like, we want you acting.
Yeah, no, she's only on the right side of a kitchen island, and I don't need to see how she makes an omelet anymore. I've seen it before. Play Sylvia Plath again or something, yes.
Famously loves kitchens, Sylvia Plath.
Yeah. One of the great kitchen acting performances. Yeah.
You give her some comment, and she'll really dig into the back of that oven.
Yeah, right? Good Lord.
It's always weird recording this on election day, but at least it's not like actual presidential election day. The times we recorded those was dark.
And then you know you're waiting. Right, yes. Anyway, I swear we won't be getting into this any other time during the episode, so.
No, we'll talk about other depressing things.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm not a fan of this episode in the onset. I'm just going to throw it out there.
We are going to talk about other celebrities we are disappointed with this week, including Drake and Rihanna.
Vastly different reasons, but both same stench of awful. Of what? Of bewilderment.
And it helps that their recent music outputs are bad too. So
that, you're right, is deeply helpful. You're right.
Yeah,
like at least
if
there's
Lift
not
Me
like,
Up was a bop, I'd be like, Rihanna.
Yeah.
I'm so angry. But I have not listened to that song since.
No, it did not lift me. I'm firmly on the ground.
And we are also going to discuss Selena Gomez's new documentary. And, Aaron Carter did pass away too. So we're also going to discuss his life.
I was going to say about him, obviously, I heard that immediately sad. I was piecing together pieces of his life I remembered that all individually, just as it might first instinct, all seemed tragic. But I was in a house full of people in Palm Springs, and I have to tell you, fully half the house did not know who Aaron Carter was. And
disgusting.
That was even more disorienting. Yeah, I can't put on a clinic right now. I can't tell you what Aaron's party was or that you should have come to get it.
There were two parties that every kid wanted to go to.
That's right.
Aaron's party and an S Club party.
Oh, please. S Club, the endorphins coming off that group. It's like 18s. I was soaring.
Bouncing off the wall, you mean?
Yes.
Or bouncing off the ceilings.
More accurately, yes.
Was the song bouncing off the ceilings or bouncing off the wall?
8 upside down, bouncing off the ceiling, upside down.
Just like bedknobs and broomsticks?
And also Lionel Richie. That's more dancing on the ceiling, but I feel the vibe is similar.
Yeah. Do you think the 18s are mad that Mamma Mia stole their ABBA gig?
Their whole thing. And that ABBA stole their ABBA gig. It's like now we have ABBA again. Yeah.
Who will remember the 18s? Well, the A adults now. So
wow. A adults. I'm not saying I'm not at that concert, but there's a stink on it. And it's the smell of beige lipstick, which is what ABBA gives us.
Anyway, we've got more Keep It coming up for you, so we'll be right back. So Drake lost his damn mind on his and 21 Savage's new album, Her Loss. Not just firing shots, but seemingly just closing his eyes and shooting at random. The line that's getting the most attention, obviously, is when he references Megan the Stallion and her shooting from that short Canadian, Tory Lanez. Okay, I couldn't remember his name. I'm like, there's a lot of short Canadians out there, you know?
You don't want people to think Michael J. Fox did it, right?
I can see Michael J. Fox and Megan Thee Stallion having some beef.
But settling it amicably, yeah. Tracy Pollan acts as intermediary, yes.
He said, this bitch lie about getting shots, but she's still a stallion. Great.
Which, just a brilliant lyric. Oh my God. One for the ages. Did Cole Porter write that one? No? Okay.
And also, sidebar, Serena, your husband a groupie, about Alex Ohanian, which, of course he is.
Right. Like, who's not a fan?
I would be happy to be Serena's groupie. You're her groupie, bitch.
No kidding. What exactly is the relationship they're supposed to have? Don't be a fan of hers at all, or notice her legacy, or anything.
Yeah, so I was obviously disappointed because I think Keep It listeners know I am a on the record Drake fan.
Sure.
Our male Taylor Swift, as it were.
I mean, that really sets my brain on fire. No idea what that could mean, but all right.
I think we've discussed this before. I think they both have an obsession with charts, for one. I feel like they both sort of use their relationships with other people to propel them forward in like pop culture. Yeah, I think that like
they like building intrigue around their relationships.
Yeah, and they both sort of write about their relationships too in an interesting way. And And I think that they also both know like how the internet will respond to them and anticipate it. You know, like the one thing about Drake is that like that we used to always talk about is the fact that he always knew that people were going to meme him and make fun of him, which is why we started getting things like Hotline Bling, where he was just creating a meme as a video before people could meme it, you know? I think that he gets there. And interesting enough, it reminds me, this new album, Her Loss, which I'll discuss in a moment, reminds me of just sort of Taylor's response post-Reputation, because he makes reference to the fact that people weren't really feeling his last album, Honestly Nevermind, which, you know, was more of the like house and dance album, which came out right before Renaissance. And so like people paid it dust. So for a couple really good songs on it. And I feel like this album is just sort of like back to basics Drake, because he's like, okay, people didn't want me to do something different. And that's very much how Taylor feels when, you know, something of hers isn't like if this album wasn't as successful as it was, the current one, Midnight's, all on the charts, she would go back to doing folklore or something, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's back to basics almost. That's all it is. I felt like listening to this album, I was listening to largely tracks that could have come out 7 years ago.
Yeah. He sort of hasn't progressed as an artist, and it's sort of now just highlighting the fact that he's, I don't know, an asshole.
Yeah. What is with that Megan the Stallion line? I mean, just why state it? Why weigh in? It's now a couple years old, right? It's just a strange journey to I know you're saying like he wants to stir people up, probably get people interested, but just gross. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I don't like it at all, and it made me like really uncomfortable even wanting to like listen to the album. Luckily it's bad. So and 21 Savage is better than him on the album, and 21 Savage is weirdly relegated to like a featured artist on it. So whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm too busy with other albums right now anyway. Do you know whose new album I like? Are you ready for this? Phoenix. So good.
You listening to Phoenix?
Can you believe it? I couldn't believe it. Somebody put it on their Insta story, and I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. Wow, I'm into it.
Okay.
And also, excuse me, wait. Do you have Barbra Streisand live at the Bonsoir?
Let's talk about
beats. Let's talk about beats.
Who was tweeting about Barbra Streisand the other? Oh, Cheryl Lee Ralph was like tweeting about Barbra Streisand live at the Bonsoir. So,
oh yes, if people don't know, in the early '60s, at the same time she was in "I Can Get It For You Wholesale," her breakthrough Broadway performance, Barbra Streisand was doing this nightclub act at the Bonsoir. It went on for a long time, kept getting extended, and initially they recorded her at the Bonsoir for an album, and then instead did a studio recording of several tracks she does during this live recording, and that became the first Barbra Streisand album, which won the Grammy for Album of the Year, and that was the beginning of her recording career. So now they have instead taken these early recordings where she's barely 20 years old and released it as her 57th album. Extremely strange. It's like suddenly getting an album of like, here's the first time the Beatles were in a garage playing with each other. It just is. It's like, it's crazy that we're suddenly getting it now, and it is.
I think I've seen that video on XTube before. So.
Oh sure, XTube. Wow, you in your late 60s? Yeah. Let's teach you a Twitter account.
I actually love when people make an XTube reference, because when I try to think about the interface for that website, it's so confusing.
Well, it's one of those sites where there's 100,000 buttons everywhere and things are popping up at you, right?
And there's a lot of like images on the screen too. I'm like, I don't need to see all these random straight sex scenes happening in the corner as I'm looking for whoever.
Those weird porn sites where it's like, you can win 50 coins if you click on this video. You know, just like lots of bullshit going on. Anyway. Honestly, if you want to be reacquainted with the fact that Barbra Streisand is a fucking freak, these vocals are just unbelievable. It's like, I feel like she's one of the few people ever who, as much as she wields power as a vocalist, dynamic control of dynamics and pitch and basic things that make a singer great. The way she throws around character is fucking crazy. We have nobody like that now who the minute they sing and like there's like a comic aside in the song or like a triumphant emotional moment, she really is like zooming between the extremes of being a person. And it's just so amazing. And you can hear that you're about to meet a brilliant actress in addition to a huge singing star when you listen to this album. I know this is a conversation about Drake, but guys, this is the real fucking deal.
Well, let me tell you something, you know? Two iconic Jewish singers. So
Okay.
Okay.
You know what you're giving right now when RBG would be like, Biggie Smalls and I are both from Brooklyn. Yeah. How about that?
Okay, listen, we are combating anti-Semitism with Drake and Barbara this week, okay?
I think we're helping, yes.
Yeah. Drake's helping.
Right.
I actually, speaking of albums that we haven't brought up yet, we talked about Carly Rae Jepsen's, but we have not talked about Tove Lo's.
Which... I'm still getting over the indignity of having to say the words Tove Lo. I mean, it just sounds like something a chimney sweep says to get in your house. But
it sounds like just something that like a German child is saying to you as they've stolen your candy.
Yeah. And by the way, that's a menacing child, the Germans. Yeah.
That's what Augustus Gloop was wailing as he drowned in the chocolate river.
Those are his last words, yes. Before Roald Dahl went on killing kids or whatever. Actually, in the book, in the book of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, at the end, all the kids wave to Charlie as he's in the air. So they officially are supposed to be alive, which surprises me because it seems like Roald Dahl has the heart of somebody who, kills kids.
Those are ghosts.
Yeah.
Those are ghosts.
Yeah.
they're not alive, Louis. And then Charlie in the Great Glass. Charlie in a Great Glass elevator, it's him going to heaven.
Yeah. There's a lot that's fucked up in that book too. When like suddenly the grandparents are minus 20 years old or whatever. Don't bend time. Please don't bend time.
But Dirt Femme is a really good album.
I will get on that. I'm surprised I haven't actually. I guess I'm still absorbed in the Carly Rae album, which continues to grow on me. At first I thought it was a little
cloying.
Palm Springs by the Pool, which I like. But then also
that's like your personality.
Yes, but except I need there to be something active in the hanging out by the pool, like we're dancing by the pool, as opposed to in a coma by the pool.
That's fair. I would also say that I have gotten into the Arctic Monkeys' new album, because I love
that's always been your brand, though. I'm not surprised about that.
Yeah, but they've entered their lounge singer era.
Meaning what?
Meaning that like the last album was very sort of like 50s, like Ocean's 11, Rat Pack, throwbacky, and this album is less kitschy than the other one. Like it's not like it's really like, oh, we're making like an album like this, but they're less in their like sort of like hard rock era, like they're doing less of like Sheffield like grunge like they were doing like that we know them from, like right. I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor, that kind of music. They're now like they're relaxed, and it's not. I mean, Alex Turner has a great fucking voice, so he sounds good singing anything. But it's interesting to see them go from like hard sort of like dance rock to this, and I love that in interviews too. They're sort of like, that Jay-Z line, sort of like, buy my old albums if you want that old shit, because like he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, like, I'm sort of intrigued by the lounge singer angle. I just think we need greater Robert Goulet literacy in this country altogether. People last remember him as a Will Ferrell character, and I think there's some awesome vocals going on there. Yeah, just anything Bacharackian, I wish people still cared about that stuff.
Well, we don't care about Burt Bacharach anymore because no one's watching American Idol, Louis. And
that's
famously, Burt Bacharach night.
Yeah. I don't want to be clear. This was a sensation television show, maybe among the 10 biggest shows of all time, and they would throw a Bacharach night. I mean, it just really boggles the mind. And then you would see someone give like a C- performance of Not Walk On By. Kelly nailed that. But a C- performance of Anyone Who Had a Heart, or a song that would never be on the radio now.
Yeah, or we got a lot of renditions of I Say a Little Prayer.
Right. And as you know, I prefer the Dion version to the Aretha version, which I think could make me neocon, but that's how I feel.
You know what? Dion put her
God, let's hear what she put in it.
I couldn't even figure out
her whole war
way.
wussy. Yeah, right.
I couldn't even figure out a way to get there.
Yeah.
She put her whole Lion Witch and Warwick up in that rendition.
Her whole Psychic Friends network was up in that. Yeah.
No, I love that rendition. Underrated Dionne Warwick, to be honest. I mean, I know that we love her. We love her Twitter stuff and the Psychic Friends network, but I feel like not enough attention is paid to her early singing days, which are like, she has fucking amazing albums.
She's an immaculate voice that it's never pushing, but it's very emotional. It's a voice that draws you in. It's not like exploding at you. She's not a belter. Closer to someone like a Karen Carpenter than an Aretha, for example. But I
watched Todd Haynes' Dionne Warwick film,
which she could still contribute to. I'm sure she has I think she has a really strong working memory of all those times too. She has given some spectacular interviews.
Yeah.
By the way, this reminds me, while we're on this topic, you just brought up Todd Haynes. Do you know what I've been in denial about? And I think I'm ready to accept.
Okay.
Ryan Murphy should do a Madonna series. I think he would be reverent to the things that would be exciting to watch in a TV show. And I think it could be his crowning moment. I know people are like a little ODing on him. You know, over the past, 7 years, we've gotten so much content from him. And, you know, sometimes it's The People versus OJ and sometimes it's The Politician. But I think
honestly,
he would
I agree.
Slay it. I think he would slay it.
Yeah, I think he'd be good. I think he'd pay, yes, you're right, the right amount of reverence to her.
And also being critical and also like making it dimensional, because he's somebody who you know is like an obsessed fan, you know.
Yeah, also they're both crazy. So
yeah, right, exactly. It works out together.
I thought you when you were talking about Todd Haynes, I thought you were about to be like, you know what? I hate Far From Heaven.
I actually think Far From Heaven is more 3 stars than 4 stars, but the performances are great. And also, why didn't Dennis Haysbert get like 20,000 roles of that size afterwards? It upsets me.
Racism.
You should have toned the word racism more often. Racism.
Actually, I think it was that plus he was stuck on 24.
Oh, right. He was in a prison, and Alicia Cuthbert was the warden.
I mean, speaking of Fox series that were massive, right? Like,
yeah,
the ratings were like American Idol, 24. I agree with it being 3 stars, though. I think obviously All That Heaven Allows is better, the Cirque film.
Yes, right.
And better in that trilogy is the Fassbender film, Ali, Fear Eats the Soul. So
now, speaking of fear eating the soul, Rihanna, what's going on there?
Okay, so Rihanna, has her Savage X Fenty drop. She loves this fashion show that's become like a production. Every year it drops on Amazon, and every year I hang out at a gay's place and it plays in the background. It's like a perfect like video to put on to like look up and watch periodically.
While I'm facing the other direction and eating cashews.
Yes, but she put Johnny Depp in this one, and I want to say, first of all, I don't care what your thoughts are on Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Who wants to see that man in underwear?
No, absolutely the fuck not. Nor I don't want to see his facial expression as he walks by us either. There's just, I mean, like it feels like the Rihanna version of voting for Rick Caruso. I mean, it's just
what? Which she probably did.
Right, I guess.
She probably
It's
did.
just-
I always forget
Yeah,
that she's sort of. I think Ray Saudi on Twitter said that we always forget that Rihanna is kind of a bozo.
Bozo. Very underrated insult.
Just because she does a lot of very silly things, like supporting Sean King. You know, she'll do things like that, and you're like, okay, we get it.
Right. But you're too busy standing. So, you don't stick with that thought. You don't stay on that thought. Yeah. Also, there's just something about like Johnny Depp in general where it's like, haven't you seen the internet has treated this whole thing disgustingly? I mean, I don't mean to say people standing up for like domestic abuse victims is disgusting. I absolutely do not mean to say that. But like Johnny Depp has proven that he is disgusting. We have the text to prove it. We have the text. There's no denying that he is vile. There's no denying that he was awful to her. I don't, anyway, regardless of what you think of her, which that's a whole other can of worms, but I don't know. This just deflated my entire morning when I heard this.
Yeah, and there's nothing about him that's even hot right now.
No. And actually people are clowning on him and like, saying, oh, it looks like Jack Sparrow at your aunt's garage sale or whatever, things like that.
But Jack Sparrow was attractive.
That's right.
In the first film,
Critically.
Jack Sparrow was attractive. Like, now he looks like Jack Sparrow left on an island, for 20 years with no food or water. He looks like Caliban in The Tempest.
Yeah, he looks like Caliban receiving his Kennedy Center honors 50 years later. After, yeah. I mean, what else is there to say about it? Come on, Rihanna. Come on. No one wants to see it. Also, it's like she's putting him alongside like Simu Liu. Like, do you think he's wanting this to fly? Who else? Is it Cheryl Lee Ralph too?
Yeah, like sexy people. Okay.
Yeah.
It's also wild that like he's one of those people who you can't even tweet his name now without being swarmed.
I can't think of another person who conjures that kind of reaction other than Michael Jackson. It is that level. And to call that a reaction is understating it wildly. I just want to also say about Michael Jackson quickly. Do you know what is so funny? When somebody is dancing at like a party and they even 1% dance like Michael Jackson. It's like, stop. Like, there's like a jerky thing they do. It's so funny. It's like the funniest thing you can do. It's so intense and like antisocial kind of. Yeah.
All right. Well, those are the celebs who've disappointed us this week.
Woof.
Anybody else you're disappointed with?
Yeah. Come with me to the Bonsoir. It's fun there.
Former child pop star Aaron Carter died tragically at the age of 34 this weekend, while Selena Gomez has already received some backlash over her documentary, My Mind and Me, which gives a vulnerable look into her own battles with mental health. So while the two former child stars have walked different paths, how has being thrust into the spotlight at such a young age affected the growth of young artists, and has it been worth it for so many of them? I mean, can talk about Aaron first. That was really it was a random gut punch because, I think that we're obviously, used to older celebrities dying lately. And we discussed them on the show, but it feels like a while since someone young that we sort of grew up on died so tragically and randomly.
Yeah, no, it almost feels like the child star into adulthood death thing is a trope of the past, like something that we would have seen in the 80s and 90s a lot, really. But he's one of these people where like you were aware he was estranged from his family, and also like he would do things like pop up on OnlyFans, and you would also see him. First of all, every time I went to Gay Pride in Chicago, he was performing there. So it's not like he wasn't sort of like giving it his all as a performer, like as
one
in, like,
thing about
working,
gays,
gigging, etc. Yeah,
they do want candy.
Right. No, he said, "Here's my demo. Take me to market days." But at the same time, I struggle a lot with like his death is tragic. Nobody should die at 34. But I guess as a Karen Carpenter stan, who also died around the same age, something about me cringes at just looking at someone's short life as a tragedy. I don't know. Her brother, for example, Richard Carpenter, says, she had a lot of joy in her life too. And I don't think he's papering over the hardships she faced either. A part of me wants to say, like, let's find the ways that he enjoyed life and also celebrate those. I'm sure that was evident. Those ways were evident to us as he's somebody who, was performing up until, recently. So,
I think that's a good way to look at that, because I mean, even the highlights that he had in his career are more than most people will achieve ever. You know?
Totally.
Just like being a global superstar, being on TV, having fans love you, the highlights in someone's life when they are a pop star, despite the bad things that come with it, like those are really big highs, and that's why people do it.
Right, exactly. But I was touched by what Hillary Duff posted. Also, Hillary Duff, good poster. I just in general have become more of a fan of hers thanks to things like Instagram.
Yeah, she writes really sweet things like that, but she's also like funny and has a sense of humor about herself.
Realistic, yeah.
Yeah. Can she go manage Reese Witherspoon's social media?
Yeah, that gets tough for me occasionally. Also, remind me to bring up Reese Witherspoon during my Keep It this week. It doesn't involve her the way you think, but I can do that.
Okay.
But so anyway, Aaron Carter's death, extremely sad, but I hope we think about it dimensionally. What is going on with Selena Gomez right now?
Yeah, so her new documentary, My Mind and Me, was released on Apple. And Alex Kashizian, who directed Truth or Dare, directed this.
And also co-wrote W.E. What range with Madonna, anyway?
Which is wild because this film involves a controversy with W.E., but not the movie, the charity group.
Oh, right. Yes. Not the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. So, he's just following, I think he's just following pop stars around who like the letters W and E.
You would think that would be a very niche circuit, but it's working out for him. Okay.
Oprah's next. Okay.
My favorite pop star, Oprah. Oh God.
When
she comes on at Glastonbury, my arms are in the air.
Yeah. Only because WeTV is the enemy of oxygen.
Right.
But here's the thing about this documentary. You talk about the highs that people get from being a pop star and then, the dark effects of it. I watched this and I'm like, girl, get off the stage.
Yeah, stop.
For the large part of it, it really seems like she hates her job. And
which by the way, I kind of stan,
Of course.
How every gay kind of stands the movie Vox Lux, even though it's pretty bad. The thing we like is the rottenness of the stardom. The thing in the stardom that's like, ugh, I have to deal with. It's not that you have to deal with fans. It's that you have to deal with delirious fans.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about this before. What was that this old Madonna interview where she talked about how she liked when the fans came up, but the fans who came up were always the ugly ones. This is like some old interview of hers from the 90s.
Yeah, food for thought. It is kind of loser. I just think it's loser behavior to go up to a celebrity in general most times because I think it's an act of narcissism. It's, I see you all the time, but you never see me. So I'm taking advantage of this moment to get in your face and let you know that this is a two-way relationship. Meanwhile, it's not. And also, if everybody did that, they would have no time to themselves. So I fucking hate that.
I would actually say that I like approaching people who, like if you're a writer or, so people who would even talk to us, right? Not to be meta about this,
sure.
But if you approach, for the most part, people who listen to our show are smart. So when they approach us, they usually have something to say in response to something that we've said.
Oh, I would actually say that is always the case for me.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is far different from approaching a mega pop star, which what do you have to say to Madonna besides
No.
I dance in my bedroom to Borderline? Like, okay, millions of
Right,
people
no.
do that.
No, I mean, what still buzzes in my head is when we had Peter Page on the show, and we asked, man, I bet people come up to you all the time, every day, and talk about how you were instrumental in their coming out, and he's like, literally every day, and that's a lot for one person to take. It's like, why are we? It's like you're putting a burden on them. Like, handle my trauma, basically. And in the case of someone like Madonna, I remember I had a friend once who was like, well, I wouldn't go up to a celebrity, but if I saw Madonna, I would have to. Faggot, why? Does she need to meet one more gay person? No.
I think that reminds me of something I tweeted when Angela Lansbury died. I was just like, because everyone's, like Murder, She Wrote and like these other things that meant so much to gays. And I was like, how many fucking coming out stories do you think Angela Lansbury has had to hear in her like almost 100 years of living? That bitch was probably tired of faggots. She sees one approaching. She's like, do not bring up Cabot Cove.
Yeah.
Don't bring
it's
up
like
Mame. I've had enough.
She's like, it's like the prompter and whatever on Blithe Spirit is like, can I just have a moment to talk about how hard it was for me? She's like, I got to get this line right. And I'm wearing a turban. So let's move on.
But the one thing that actually seems to light Selena up, though, is her fans. And I think by the end of it, you get to an idea that she loves connecting with people. Her mental health struggles are very real and sort of harrowing in the documentary. I wish we got more of them, actually. There sort of starts when she has her psychotic break and the revival tour ends in 2016. And then we sort of jump forward to like 2019, even post, the kidney transplant, So it's just sort of like you miss these large chunks and you really hear her talking about it. And there's some, like a bunch of filler where she goes back to her hometown and is like walking through her school and talking to like old neighbors and things. And I'm like, okay, that's what, an MTV interview used to be for, right? Like that's not something that we need in a documentary on you. Let's move on from that. But she there's another moment too where she's just sort of like talks about how much philanthropy sort of means to her, and I actually believe it when she says that when she's done with all of this, she's going to mostly work on philanthropy. There's actually a moment where the best moments of the documentary are where Alex gets the moments that he got in like Truth or Dare from Madonna, where Selena's sort of like flippant with an interviewer, or she leaves an interview and she's like, that was the dumbest fucking question. Like, I hate that shit. Like, never make me do that again. There's a moment where she talks about like, I was being asked interesting questions, like the person who asks her what she'd want to do besides her career, and she says philanthropy, and then the interviewer's just sort of like, that's great, thank you. And then Selena like leaves pissed off because she's like, there's no follow-up to that whatsoever. It was just like, boom, getting through the questions. And so that was interesting.
No, I like seeing that too, because I feel like a lot of people just expect these people to be perpetually, quote unquote, grateful, which means you don't have an opinion about anything, basically. You just have to be up there and loving everything that happens to you. And people are unsympathetic to famous people.
Megastars.
For one thing, Yes. And also just not taking 2 minutes to think about what is actually happening to them as all of this quote unquote wonderful stuff is happening.
And also, like, even on the concept of being grateful, they give us a lot too. Like, I think people underestimate how much a song, an album does for you. That's sort of why I always really get mad at, obviously conservatives and people like that, or people who just sort of like sort of knock like a film or a movie or an actor or like a musician. It's just sort of like, do you know how much movies and the TV that we watch and the music we consume like get us through our lives? It's just very weird to think of it as superfluous and just be like not grateful for what artists give us. I mean, like, you mentioned
Yeah,
Madonna, you know, Michael, like
Right.
Michael Jackson, you know, like growing up on music, listening to it every day, that does something to you. It does something to your mental health. Like it gives you endorphins or what the fuck ever. Like music changes people's lives. So it's very weird to then be like, well, you don't do anything for people.
Yeah. Right, exactly. No, how is it superfluous if I want to spend all my time thinking about it and talking about it and listening to it? You know, it's just like, you're right. It's more than a leisurely activity. It's like, you know, when something is the quote unquote soundtrack of your life, that's beyond meaning. That's like your way of life, you know?
Yeah, it's how you connect with it's like how you remember friends you have from high school. It's how people remember breakups. It's how people remember the passings of family members. Like, music means a lot. So
Yes.
I connect with the thing of like, I connect with the idea that pop stars shouldn't feel like should be more grateful for like the fans that they have, because they do a big service. But I will say it's interesting seeing Selena sort of flippant and like sort of funny in this documentary, but then remembering how humorless she was during that like Saved by the Bell episode about her kidney, which didn't even make fun of her kidney.
Right. It was just a one-off joke, right? It was like one character said something and then they moved right along. It wasn't like the episode was about that.
It was about how social media helps people remember things now in the way that like they can't recall facts. And by the end of the episode, like, because all the kids' phones get taken away in the episode, by the end of the episode, like when the school devolves into pandemonium, someone had scrawled on the wall, like, does Selena Gomez even have kidneys?
Funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Which brings us to this week where the most humorless people on the internet are unfortunately Selenators. Selenators? I never know how to pronounce that.
It's a tough word syllabically.
Selenators?
Yes. So, Selenators? Yeah, senators with an L in there? Yeah.
Because when the documentary came out, Selena thanked Taylor Swift as, you know, being her only friend in the industry. And then Francia, the actress friend of hers who gave her kidney in 2019, responded, interesting, on like an E! News story, and then unfollowed Selena, which I think that's so ghetto on her part, to be honest. I'm sorry. Like, publicly deciding to feud with Selena is wild to me.
And also, it's like, I just feel like it's an offhand comment. Like, maybe if she's just talking about other superstars, you know? Like, you might think, oh, Selena's friends with all of these people at the top, Adele, etc. And it's just, no, really, it's just Taylor Swift. I just didn't think it was that damning a quote, or it did make me think, oh, the girl she got the kidney from, she hates her.
Okay, I mean, like, we're not all sitting around talking about Bring It On All or Nothing, Francia. I'm sorry. Okay? And you're on the Secret Life of the...
Grownish?
Yes, and Secret Life of the American Teenager, which we talked about like the other week. But come on, girl.
No, but I'm talking more about Bristol Palin on Secret Life of the American Teenager.
Exactly.
Her, you know what I mean?
I could get sort of being upset with her if you feel like, you know, you're not getting your proper due or something, because I don't know, giving someone a kidney is a big ass deal. Imagine you have a falling out with a friend who gave a kidney to. It's like they're not talking to you anymore, but you're literally like part of you is walking around inside of them every day.
Yes, your organs have. You thought you were being philanthropic, but in fact, your organs have betrayed you now.
It's like Selena's Alicia Witt in Urban Legend.
A reference that should come up way more often. Did I bring up Alicia Witt just last week?
Did you? Maybe.
I'm trying to think of what the context was. We were with our lovely guest host. We were talking. She thought the poster behind me was Sandy Dennis, or pardon me, she thought the poster was Sybil Shepherd, and I was like, well, Alicia Witt was great on Sybil. Anyway, now you've heard backstage goss. That's what goes on backstage at Keep It.
A lot of talk about Sandy Dennis. So yes, I found the entire beat. I found Francia's response sort of like wild, but I will say it is funny that she's picking a fight with Selena online over a kidney. it's funny, you know, and
right.
and you try to make a joke about it, and Selena's fans are just they're rabid. How could you make fun of this? It's such a serious thing. It's like, she's alive.
Yeah, right. Also, to respond interesting when you write down a kidney, it's just like the gulp that you can hear as she types that.
Anyway, I think it's a funny story, but I also do think it's wild to just sort of, you know, comment interesting on the story. Go, we didn't need the beef to be public.
Yes, I'm going to say charitably, she maybe wanted us all to have a laugh, and I've got to be honest, I had one. So,
all right, when we're back, it's time for Keep It. And we're back with our favorite segment of the episode. It's Keep It. Louis, what do you have to say about Reese Witherspoon?
Oh, that's right. I tease my Keep It. I love when I'm theatrical. My Keep It this week is about a list I otherwise support, which is TV Line did a list of the 50 best HBO characters ever. And I just want to say, first of all, there are always so many lists of TV shows or movies or whatever. Rating characters, to me, feels a bit more productive because it's more fun to compare them, ultimately. Whereas I feel like with TV shows altogether, that's like a matter of taste. Like, why would you compare The Sopranos to Sex and the City? Like, why would you say one is better than the other? They're not the same thing at all. Whereas characters and performances, a little bit more fun to size up. You know, that's why those categories in the Oscars are the most fun.
So your mantra is characters welcome.
That's right, which I always forget. Is that USA or TBS?
I think it's USA.
Okay, yeah, I never get it right. But on this list of the 50 greatest HBO characters ever, which, by the way, they're doing because HBO is 50 years old. I had no idea it went back that far. But Samantha Jones is number 3 on the list, and Miranda Hobbs is 30-something on the list, and Carrie Bradshaw is not on the list. We need to be reversing this narrative about Carrie Bradshaw being a, I guess, bad or selfish or whatever the narrative character is. I think she remains one of the best female characters ever and realistic. Like, people find like character defects in women to be criminal, or like if we don't point them out, we're endorsing them, and therefore they're making us look bad because they get to be bad people and we don't want them to be like. Anyway, Carrie Bradshaw is the best part of Sex and the City. And I say this as somebody who identifies as Miranda Samantha Cusp in my personal life. I just think SJP gave a performance that was so casually dimensional. She was so born to do it. Every role she did up until that point, including the wacky character ones, were leading to this character. I really think she packs a whole bunch of crazy qualities into a character that is otherwise relatable, and she should be in the top 3 along with Tony Soprano and Omar from The Wire.
I love Carrie Bradshaw, and I think that what's interesting is I view her in the way that you would sort of view like a Tony Soprano. I mean, look, just read Emily Nussbaum's New Yorker essay about Sex and the City, which is still great to this day. But would people call themselves like, I'm a Carrie? You know, I don't think they ever mean it in the way that I mean it when I say I'm a Carrie. I mean it as a person who's a writer, but who's also sometimes self-involved and also ruins relationships with men.
Right. Again, we can't help that Aiden was boring. Sorry. I know you wanted her to end up with Aiden, but I'm sorry. How many questions about carpentry do you have? Me? 0.
Aiden was boring and an asshole.
Yeah, he had a sort
when
of...
he took her back, really, where it just seemed like he just wanted to punish her, was wild.
Right. And then, of course, we ran into him in Abu Dhabi, which I consider the nightmare of nightmares. Like, how did my ex find me here? But...
And now he's going to be on And Just Like That, which I think I'm finally going to finish the first season. Enough people have told me that it's a enjoyable bad watch.
I think I watched everything but 1 or 2 episodes. I mean, there's truly a whole episode of that show where she's like, "Do I like my new amazing apartment? I can't tell, but I will return to it."
Okay, and where's Reese Witherspoon on the list?
Oh, her character is on the list, and it's somewhere in the 30s. And I don't believe Nicole's character from Big Little Lies is on the list either, which upsets me.
Where's Renata?
Right. And also, that's somebody who would be reading the list, and she would be printing it out and showing it at a PTA meeting.
I don't even see Renata on this list. Wow. Maybe
Michael
I'm wrong.
Ausiello wants to hurt us. That's what's going on.
Also, Schillinger is 49. Okay. He's the only character from Oz on there, too.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
There's a lot going on with this list.
Well, let's start a fight. Let's get in the comments and be cruel.
Spoiler alert, Michael Ausiello is our enemy now.
I'm really looking forward to that movie. I hope it's good. Ira, what's your keep it this week?
My keep it this week goes to Keep It alum Karamo.
No. I did not know we were doing this. I don't have the emotional bandwidth. Go ahead.
So he has a talk show now.
Which already I'm emotionally distressed. Go ahead.
Have you seen clips from it? It's Maury, and it's basically a Maury spinoff because for a period Karamo hosted a series of Maury episodes, and now it has sort of the same font. It's on after Maury. You know, it seems like it's a successor to take over the Maury mantle, and it's very much therapy buzzwords like accountability and take this step with me, like shit that means nothing but works for some people.
And also it's the same variety as what he does on Queer Eye, where he's like, oh, you're feeling like you're not good at your job or you're not getting the dates you want? Well, what if you did this tightrope course? That does not help me.
Yeah. You know what helps me? When Beyonce says, release your job, release the trade.
Yeah. Yes.
That's definitive, and it's not, playing Legends of the Hidden Temple so you can get to an emotional place with your father.
Right. No. Break My Soul should be the fifth Queer Eye guy. Yes.
Although famously, I think all silver monkeys have daddy issues, but we'll get to Legends of the Hidden Temple on another show.
Wow, you really took us to the heart room with that one. Okay, go ahead.
So on his show, he invited Chef P, the pink sauce lady, as she's known. And I don't know if you know this saga, but basically she's a private chef in Miami. And Chef P, her TikTok username, she created this sort of pink sauce, which is a lot like, when you get the bottled Thousand Island sauce from like Chick-fil-A or like In-N-Out, it's like that kind of sauce, but it's pink. She would put it on all her food and TikToks and really sort of like tease, what does this taste like? But she wouldn't tell people what it tasted like, just that it was good, just that they'd have to buy it. So people were buying it this summer in droves from her TikTok, which is a great way to sort of like tease a business, Here's the problem. She was shipping this stuff without any sort of like ice, like freezing the product or anything. Vile. And so people are getting, this like spoiled shit to their home, which tasted nasty, not FDA approved. When she was accused of not doing things FDA approved, she had like another video where she was like, I'm not selling medical products, like the FDA isn't involved. So this is who we're dealing with here.
This is a living poison ivy. She is like, yes. I'm getting this venom into your home, and you're going to consume it and feel awful. Go ahead.
So basically, a customer, someone who criticized the pink sauce on their own TikTok or YouTube, the pink lady accused her of like harassing her, like ruining her business, by being overly critical. Karamo brings them both onto his talk show to discuss the matter. Whose side do you think he was on?
Oh my God, what?
He defends the pink lady because it's all this sort of bullshit about like, not tearing each other down, at the expense of accountability. Like that, I feel like is a general mantra. And I get supporting other people, supporting a small business owner, but she was shipping people rancid product She's allowed to be dragged, you know? And the idea that, you know, basically this customer was made to feel like she was in the wrong and made Chef P a victim was so wild that the episode was pulled from YouTube.
No way.
It's pulled from YouTube, wiped from the internet, and then it resurfaced on TikTok, which is kind of hilarious because there's a bunch of Gen Z people now on TikTok being like, who's Karamo?
Yeah.
And I did not know
Valid
Queer
question.
Eye was that removed from the general consciousness. But I will say there was the big splash for the first 3 years of Queer Eye. And now when I see a new subsequent season or like 3-episode thing that they filmed is on Netflix, I'm like, oh, that's still on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's still like a sensation for whatever the millennial viewership or older than millennial viewership that watches it. But first of all, the only pink lady I support is the 70s Variety Act. That would be on like the Gong Show. And also, of course, the pink ladies of Greece. Not all of them, but most of them. Didi Khan, that's what I'm talking about. But yeah, what a perplexing story. Karamo to me has this problem of like wanting to seem not all-knowing, but like moral, and not having the self-awareness to realize he's not done the math on this at all. Like he's coming to simple conclusions that miss a huge point.
Yeah. And a lot of people are tagging him, wanting a response to this episode being pulled, any sort of apology, and it's just pretending it didn't exist. So it's a very funny clip if you find it, but maddening. Because it really paints this awful businesswoman as a victim.
Yeah, that's really shocking. I mean, just to be like, can you get this label right? Can you prove you're not, again,
there are
poisoning everybody?
misspellings on the label. You know, it's just, I get it. And it's all rooted in this, you know, we should all lift each other up. We should all support one another. I mean, that was the whole thing with the Sean Spicer stuff, right? On Dancing with the Stars, you know, like we should support one another, but some people don't need to be supported. And if you want to be supported, you should like do your job correctly. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Not trying to kill people.
Do the bare minimum of your job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sick. All right. Well, that was really, really enraging. I'm almost sorry you even brought it up, but that's a good keep it.
Thank you. Well, that's our show this week.
We ended up covering a lot. Namely, what's going on at the Bonsoir, which is a lot.
You know what we gotta do Keep It Live from the Bonsoir. Is
Oh,
the
my
Bonsoir
God.
still around?
When you hear my version of Come to the Supermarket in Old Peking, you are going to fall out.
Listeners, if you know if the Bonsoir is still around or like what it is now in the Village, please let us know. Also, I have one last parting question for our listeners. I watched Rachel Getting Married on my plane. And I, for some reason in my brain, had the notion that when she leaves the salon after the fight with her sister, that Anne Hathaway shows up with pink hair. And she does not.
Oh, no. She has the dark hair. Yeah.
Yeah,
The kind of
she just-
jagged late 90s cut. Yeah.
She does not. And then I was like, maybe my brain was crossing wires from when she dyes Kate Hudson's hair blue in Bride Wars. But I need to know if I'm thinking of another film where Anne Hathaway has pink hair, or if I'm thinking of another film where there's a dramatic pink hair reveal in it. So if someone has an idea.
I'm sorry not to be able to solve that for you. I feel like that should come really easily to me. It's not right now. But
I feel
great
like it's
movie.
one of
And also
those-
Deborah Winger in that movie, unforgettable.
I hope it's a real thing, and I hope it's not like that. What's the
Mandela
word?
effect.
Yes, not one of those Mandela effect things like that fake genie movie or whatever.
Yeah. Berenstein Bears spelled one way when it's not spelled that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, listeners, tell me if I'm going crazy or not.
I'll give you a head start.
We'll see you next week.